You are Locked On Texas Tech, your daily podcast on the Texas Tech Red Raiders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Great to be with you again on Locked On Texas Tech on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, always free and available on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts. And today's episode brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use our code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase with the Only Chris level. I'm Casey Cowan. Chris, great to be back with you once again, dropping in on the fly to set the table for Red Raiders and Wildcats round 2. This one coming up from Tucson, Arizona. To me, the game of the weekend, the best thing going in the USA as far as college basketball this Saturday. And I want to get to what went down the first time around in Lubbock in just a moment, and of course, where you feel like the matchup could turn in this second round. But man, this is one of those that I think you surely had ranked pretty high on your list as far as new members joining the league, and whatever sport it might be. Hey, can't wait to face this opponent in this context. And certainly for Arizona, it's men's basketball, and you'll be on the road to experience that environment. Not your first trip to Tucson, but hoping for a great result. And yeah, this is one of those additions to the Big 12 Conference that you actually did feel like was really going to be additive for you.
Yeah, and you know, the matchups with the University of Arizona and various sports, at least this academic year, have been pretty good to you. Yeah, I was just there. When was that, man? I've slept since then. What was that? Early October, I guess, with the Red Raiders. And I feel like that these games are starting at about the same time, which is not my favorite. It's like I just hope to be home by the time that the Super Bowl starts. Yeah, I think we just got news that recently that they not going to tip off at 9 Central. We'll go ahead and delay it for a half hour. Or ESPN did this, I guess. But
what's another 30 when it's already 9
I know, and that's kind of what I said. I'm like, you know what are you even worried about it for? What's another half hour? It's like a sitcom. Yeah, so I've been there before. You know, obviously I've been there for football a couple of times, but I've been there for basketball before, and I guess it was 2012, 13 range. The McHale Center, they were good then. They weren't like all world like they have been at times. That thing holds 14,500. Okay, it's an older arena, but again, the environment is not going to be a problem for you on Saturday. I don't care how much they try to. The delayed tip may lather them up even more. I don't really know, but that's not going to be the problem. The problem is that it's a pretty good basketball team that is almost as hot as you are, if not more so, I guess. I don't know how to, they've just seemingly figured it out. I mean, these two teams, like, let me just phrase it to you this way. You've won 7 in a row. They've won 5 in a row. They've lost one game since, I guess, like December the 14th or something, whatever it is. One game. That was to you. That's it. These two teams combined in the 2025 are a combined 18-2. And your loss was a 1-point loss in overtime at home to Iowa State. Their loss is the 16-point loss they suffered in Lubbock. So this is just, and I think they're coming off of a really good win in Provo. I kind of wondered, okay, what am I rooting for there? What do I want to see? And I kind of really, you wanted Arizona to get a loss just because you're chasing. So, and they didn't. They won in Provo by double digits, which is very difficult to do. It's a great environment and all those things. So I don't know, man.
Now you got to do it yourself.
That's
you got to
right.
hand them the second L.
I mean, lion. You got to go into the lion's den again and eat the lion and kill it and all that. And you start doing the math here. There are games on paper down the stretch that should be winnable for you. But some of these games are going to alter the top end of the standings because you're a title contender, but at some point, Arizona needs to lose some games. They are ahead of you. Houston needs to lose some games. They are ahead of you. You have one game each with each school and you can directly affect that. And then you start talking tiebreakers and all that other stuff. And then by the way, you have to go handle your business in the games you're supposed to win, which is much easier said than done. When a lot of these trips are road games and Stillwater and TCU and Tempe and all these other things where it's like, they're going to win. Just time out. Be careful. Stay where you are. Be where your feet are here, and one at a time. But this is a massive game. I mean, this is one of the bigger league games you would have had in regular season history based on what's on the line here. Not that they're handing out a trophy, but it's going to directly affect it. And it's because of what you did on the road a week ago. That's why we're having this conversation. It's not just a great opportunity and all those things. No, you're chasing them. And in a way, I kind of like that because you still have that edge. But they'll remember what you did to them a couple of 3 weeks ago.
Oh, yeah. I have no doubt about that. And speaking of that, what did you take away from that matchup that really spurred the Red Raiders on to the success they had? Because, I mean, a chance to get a win, obviously, you're feeling like, yeah, you got a chance to get a win, but doing it by the margin you did and some other things that game involved, a little bit surprising, I think. But what do you remember from the first round between these two?
First, today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. Super Bowl 59 is here. One game, two teams, endless possibilities, and there's no better way to make every play more exciting than with FanDuel Sportsbook. Whether it's calling the first touchdown, MVP, or even betting on the coin toss, FanDuel makes it easy to get in on the action. With live betting all game long, you can adjust your bets as the game unfolds and feel the thrill from kickoff to the final whistle. The live betting feature lets you stay involved no matter what happens on the field throughout the game, and the app is super easy to navigate. And knowing that you can place only a $5 bet and potentially win $200 in bonus bets for the Super Bowl, that's icing on the cake. Download the app or head to FanDuel.com to get started today. Bet only $5, and if you win, you'll score $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Bet with FanDuel, official partner of Super Bowl 59.
There's several things. I think that this was a very close game until about 5 minutes to go.
Yeah.
And I think you finished the game on a 17-2 run. They didn't score a point in the last 5 minutes of the game, not a single point. And I would say that you held them to 31% from the field that day. I think that would be very difficult to duplicate that, especially when this one's in their home building. They were 3 of 18 from three, and they're not typically like this great 3-point shooting team. They just try to beat you up and all those things. The other thing you did that day was you were like plus 16 on the glass. I mean, if I was picking, I would replicate the 31% from the field deal, but a close second would be like, if you can out-rebound on my 16, I tend to like your chances. JT Toppin, maybe his best game as a Red Raider. He went for 20 and 16 that day. Henry Vasar, who I felt like when we did one of these kinds of videos before that particular game, he was what concerned me a lot. He doesn't even score in that game. He was 0 for 5. He has since gotten really hot. He's been a major factor, and he was kind of leading up to that game. For whatever reason, you had some sort of kryptonite for him. He's the 7-footer that's the redshirt sophomore. But Caleb Love is going to be the guy that he's just playing as good as anybody in the league. He personally derailed Iowa State. Personally. He heaved it from half court, and Iowa State really hadn't been the same since. And it's truth. I mean, once that shot went in from half court, Iowa State's like, what is happening? I mean, and they have yet to recover. They'll get it back on track at some point, but that's just kind of because they were dead to rights that game. I mean, it was over half court, and otherwise Arizona is going to lose that game, and Iowa State was going to barely win it, but it didn't. And Arizona's just kind of kept on rolling. They're confident, they're big, so it's going to take a solid effort. But you've been here before. I mean, the environment's not going to bother you. This it's not an Ames crowd or a Lawrence, Kansas crowd, or maybe even a Morgantown crowd. This is I don't want to say it's like wine and cheese crowd. That's not what I'm trying to suggest. But it's like some of these other environments are much more hostile or louder and, whatever. But it's because Tommy Lloyd's a damn good coach, and they've got a really good, deep, athletic roster with some size to it. And that size gave you some problems in that first game, but you figured out a way to get to the end. And remember D5? He didn't play the last 5 minutes of this first matchup. So,
I'm glad you mentioned him, because before we get out of here, I just wanted to ask you about a Red Raider that may be at the top of the list that you say you either want to see or they need to really have a big game. And Darion Williams, to me, I'm just kind of itching to see have one of those really big games. So he may be the guy I mentioned, not necessarily akin to the matchup, but what name do you go to?
It's funny, man. Could we get a Darion Williams like Kansas game of 2024? I mean, I'd sign up for that. I mean,
I'd even let him miss a shot. You could have one, I guess, if you want, but anything close to that.
I would point to a couple of guys. I think Elijah Hawkins or Darion Williams need to play really, really well. Look, you kind of have a feel for what you're going to get from Chance now. While he may not outscore everybody, he's going to give you a solid game. JT Toppin the same, and hopefully JT's healthy and he's good to go and he's 100%. It can kind of give you that double type stuff. But it's been a minute since like Darion Williams has had one of those games like where he just really had it going and all that, and it may be required, on this night. But Elijah Hawkins, in that first one, he's like had the 9 points, 9 assists, 0 turnovers. I mean, and can you get, because he had a really good game at Houston last week too. His ability to score has just kind of changed the dynamic of your entire team. Because I know you remember me saying this back before the season started. Like, my fear was they're going to look at this kid and say, "Hey, man, we're going to take your ability to pass away, and you shoot. You try to beat us. You try to score 20 to 25, and good luck." And he's kind of done that on some nights, but it's also opened everything else up. But if he would have one of those like Salt Lake City games or one of those Provo games that he had, if he have a similar game to what he had against these Arizona Wildcats the first time, one of those two guys I think increases your margin for error greatly. But I don't expect you to get many calls. I hope that you shoot it well. They will shoot it better than they did the first time they played you. But I do think this will be a pretty contested game, and you hope that you have enough at the end, because this thing was nip and tuck for 35 minutes last time. And I think people look at the score and they don't realize that. I mean, it was the last 4 or 5 minutes and you just kind of ran away with it. And, I would expect you to be very close at the end, but it's just about making those plays at the tail end. And you can't miss some of these free throws you've been missing. You've been living to tell about it, but you can't do that and keep living to tell about it.
Yeah, plenty of times last Saturday I didn't think we were going to live to tell about that.
I know, yeah.
Common comments being made in the moment, as in some games previously. We were just thinking, man, you don't even feel like you deserve to win when you're missing free throws like that. But hey, you find a way to get it done. So say la vie and try to be better the next time around. But yeah, that has been something that's been fairly anxiety-inducing on a consistent basis to this point in the season. Chris, appreciate a little extra time, man, to get ready for this one. One of the best regular season games on the schedule for Texas Tech, and a heck of a lot of meaning surrounding it as far as bigger picture objectives are concerned as well. So pursuing conference hardware will need to continue via a win or some success here on Saturday night. So hopefully that's the result, man, but we'll talk about it either way on the other side. Safe travels, enjoy the game, and for God's sake, get back to West Texas as soon as you can.
Yeah, you mentioned Saturday night. This is going to spill over into Sunday morning is what's going to happen. True. Yeah, playing Arizona on Super Bowl Sunday. Who would have thunk it? But yeah, that's what you got. So yeah, we'll see. You still have so much basketball left to go. There's a lot on this one just from the standings, and because if you win this one, man. If you win this one, people are gonna have a hard time keeping me telling me to shut up, because I run my mouth. big time. I mean, because you're like, I mean, I'm the king of this castle, man. I mean, like, you will have slayed all the dragons, the lions, and everything. I'm like, goodness gracious. So,
No,
anyway.
we need you talking noise right here. You're not going to hear it from this crowd.
We'll see what we get, but yeah, Henry Vasar, Caleb Love make me a bit nervous. Tommy Lloyd, the head coach, makes me a bit nervous, but we'll see what we get, man. Should be fun, and again, free spin of the wheel, heck of an opportunity. We'll see what you can do with it.
That's right. Appreciate your time as always, man, and appreciate everybody for being out there. Shout out to the everydayers for always riding along, and a special tip of the cap to the Matador Mob. Thank you for being out there as well. If you're interested in becoming a Matador Mob insider, hit the show notes for a link to a free 14-day trial. That's your direct line to Chris and myself with one-on-one text sent straight to your phone. For Chris, I'm Casey. Thank you for the time. And as always, we hope to see you back for the next round on Locked On Texas Tech.